your team managed to take down Elelon after it was discovered that something, well, it hasn't been discovered yet, but something about them was off, causing the team to take them down and or at least get them unconscious. Through the efforts of Cerberus, basically bashing them into the sphere, the Sunstone, in the pointed time
Yeah,
where
I helped. I helped.
yes. Talon, you did help.
Yeah, I helped with it. I frozen. He had, the
With
Cerberus
the
did smash him in
assistance
there.
of Talon, freezing them in place.
Hey.
I was gonna get to that later, but okay.
Sorry, sorry,
It's
sorry.
fine. Pushing them into where a good amount of force would take them down. Alanon got hit very forcefully, like a truck, and using Tolwyn, you have one less wild shape, because it did turn you into a big wolf.
Nice.
Pushing Alanon once more to bring them down to the ground, and then I do believe it was Talon that brought them down to 0 unconscious. I could be wrong. I don't really remember. Short-term memory problems. But
hit him like for one little bit, like after he bounced back, like from Cerberus and Tolan smashed him in there, like up to the nose.
Knocking them out and tying them up, you quickly go into the tunnel systems where the rest of the civilians went into place. Beforehand, your team decided to go and warn the entire city that an entire pool of magic and ichor will be flooding the place, so obviously being in town is not exactly the best idea. So they went into the cave system, some further into the hunting grounds, others into the drow encampments, and others into separate tunnel systems themselves, making sure that no one was left behind. Kaithel was assisting with that in the meantime. I don't remember why Kaithel's so injured, but they're injured for some reason. Nevertheless, your team then...
levels of exhaustion.
Oh, yeah. They should have healed by now. I'm just going to rework their... But the team managed to get down here and then close off the tunnel system that would get potentially covered and coated. Heading towards the drow encampment, you now find yourselves with Delilah, the House of Silver, Palomar Silver, and River themselves, and with Delilah's son that is there in case you need him, because you asked for a cleric and he's the best you got. But getting some information on Elelon after waking them up and tying them up, it was discovered that this person is not exactly who they appear to be. There seems to be a demon, devil, but definitely something possessing them, causing their body to be not in their own control, in a way. Due to the amount of time they were isolated and frozen within that spectrum, it's easy enough to tell that an elven human, standard humanoid mind would eventually snap or break, and a more dominant force, such as a demon devil possession, would likely go into the forefront. So it stands to reason that this individual is in control. In full control, unfortunately. And there might be a few ways of getting them out of it, but right now your team doesn't have that power, strength, or current knowledge. While you were discovering this Cerberus...
like what I did, like whenever it gets to that part, I just want to narrate what I was doing because anyway, sorry, go ahead.
While discovering this Cerberus ranged the scope of detecting good and evil, looking around and pinging to see if there are any, basically checking to see if the story is true. It was discovered that there is a fiend force on Alanon and a more celestial or godlike force in Delilah, which I changed because it was hard to write or read the phonetic way that I spelled it, so I just went with the standard way of spelling it. So you would stop using Drow Milf. I mean,
Nice.
But nevertheless, Cerberus encountered the situation, and it's a good thing to discover. It's just not important right now. I'll immediately outright bring that up when it needs to be presented. But right now, it's not important to this current scope and time. But Talon, discovering all this information, having the family blade in hand, and Cerberus asking Delilah a few questions and making sure that she's comfortable with the information she has, Tolwyn all the while making sure that Alanon isn't trying to unfurl the rope. Talon, go ahead and narrate the last few moments that you remember.
I was sitting there and talking to this demon, and or whatever devil. We don't know if it's a demon or a devil, but it's a fiend of some kind. Anyway, and he was basically like, give me the sword. The sword's name is Rarakan, and he's like, give me the sword, and Rarakan and I would leave, like whatever. And I'm taking your father's body. Like, too bad. Like, but I'll leave. Which I don't know. He's like acting all tough right now, and even though he's all tied up, and we whooped his ass. Me and well, you helped us, Tolan. Technically, there's three of us, but still, without Kayathal's help. But I wanted to bond like with the blade, but it takes too long, like to get bonded with it. Like I know it would take like an hour or whatever. And I don't trust this fiend or monster, and it's also like talking shit and saying it's gonna take my father's body, and kind of alluded to like he's gone. Like if he's still there, like even if we got rid of the demon, like it was like he was still gonna be like fucked up, or like something's wrong with him. Like it's been too long, kind of thing. So like I just like walked to the back of the room, like, and tried to bond with the blade, and like I was like, yeah, it's gonna take too long. And then like I think Severus is about to start asking questions, but I just walked up and jammed the sword right through my father's chest as he's like tied up.
Okay.
And that's how we ended the last session.
So,
Oh.
Talon,
When
you begin
part of
to.
a plant's disease, you got to cut it off.
Yeah, my father wouldn't want to live like that. He would want me to kill him. He would never want to be a slave to some pussy ass demon. Now I'm gonna slay this demon.
Talon, you step forward in front of Alanon. You're not even sure if they're even your father at this point in time. The demon devil, definitely the creature from the abyss, definitely has complete control and possession. So giving them the blade and letting them leave isn't really an option due to the fact, well, you believe your father wouldn't want that to happen, wouldn't want to be carrying this
Never.
disease. So while Cerberus is away and Kaithal is trying to recover and all this, Tolwyn is really the only one that could potentially make a stand against you. So you present your body in front of Alanon, making sure that Tolwyn can see the situation at hand. He understands that the possession is here, but at the end of the day, would potentially not be able to move quick enough unless you have a reach attack to
Like
parry.
I'm not even like I'd be telegraphed. I mean, like if anyone was watching me, I had the blade in my hand. I walked to the back of the room. I kind of sat there for a minute. I like brought it down like in the ready position. I was like staring at my father, who was like Severus started talking to him, and then I just fucking marched like straight down the fucking line, nonstop, like with the blade, and just fucking jammed it in there. Like if someone really wanted to try and stop me, they could. Like they would see me coming. Like they maybe wouldn't think I would kill my own father, I guess. So I guess maybe they,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Honestly, based on how everyone's positioned, Tolwyn would be the only one, minus Carthel, but I'm going to exclude Carthel out of the equation currently.
Yeah.
NPC status right now. So Tolwyn, do you decide to do anything? If not, that is perfectly fine.
No, this it's a family matter, and I don't think Tolwyn disagrees with the
It's
sentiment.
awesome. This is a family matter. I mean, what can I do? But just
Hey.
stab this guy in the heart. This is clearly a family matter. I love it.
I mean,
This
it's
is
your
great.
dad being possessed
I
by
don't
a
want you to
demon,
stop.
so
I don't want you to stop me. I'm doing it.
Yeah,
If you try and
yeah.
stop me, I'll stab you too.
No, I don't think Tolwyn would. Like, there's nothing wrong in Tolwyn's eyes. There's nothing wrong with killing someone, especially where like this basically is like a possessed.
Killing.
It's like a diseased plant, like or diseased
Yeah.
animal. Like it's
It's a mercy killing. That's exactly what I literally like came to. I was like, I want to save my dad, but I was like, he literally said, if you save him, well, he's still gonna be fucked. I'm like, well, technically, I'm gonna have to like, do a bunch of shit to save him, and then like, I was like, I might as well just kill him and try and revive him, like or like take his body, or something like I don't know, like at the very least, not gonna let this demon walk away with my family heirloom moonblade sword that, it's been in my family for generations.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Tolwyn did do the whole sense emotions thing, and, like, he felt all that rage and pain that this creature was in when it was trapped. and we know it was trapped in there for a long time. Like, I don't think he has any reason to stop Talon here. Like, Talon's, it wouldn't be his place, basically.
Yeah. So with a hand motion, trained after generation, Talon, you carry the blade, and then step up next to Alanon, and with a quick gesture of movement, before anyone can react, well, Tolwyn has decided on their own, but before anyone else can react, you sink the blade into the heart, and then sever the tendons around it, drawing the blade back out. If the heart was not beating, poor way of phrasing it, the rest of the tendons around it would be severed, so that in itself would have killed them. Drawing the blade back out, you do feel a force around you. A sensational convergence is the best way I can describe it. Talon, I want you to go ahead and roll a insight check.
I had all the insight check lessons. Like, is my father okay? I was like 3. He's doing good. He's doing pretty good, boys. Boys and girls. Nice.
As you draw your blade out, you can tell that Alanon is felled. I think that's the proper term. Definitely taken down and definitely taken out. You see no drawing of breath, no motion, no eyes twirling or twinkling. They simply close their lids due to the force of the weight no longer there, since they are now no longer there. The body is slumped over, and simple enough, although they are tied down to the chair, they are no longer sitting, as they are no longer there.
I'll do another.
Off my blade and sheath it and be like, and I like bow down and be like, "This is the best I could do for you, Father. Like, rest in peace."
Can I do another divine sense?
Yes. Divining sense, looking for apparitions, celestials, elementals, fae, fiend, undead. You can tell that there is that feeling of celestial energy within Delilah. Nothing around you, nothing around Kythel or Tolwyn, but Talon. Not Talon specifically, but something around them feels as if it's
Jeez.
phasing out of existence here and there. You can't really tell if it's a celestial, fiend, fae, undead, but you can tell that there's something around Talon, but it's not them specifically. You just have this sensational movement.
I frown for a moment, and I'll tell Talon as he starts to get back up from his bow. I'll tell him, "Hey man, there's something around you or near you that seems to be phasing in and out of our plane. Be careful."
The demon trying to use its will to stay here. It should be gone shortly, I imagine. Without a host, it has nowhere to be. So my father is dead long ago, at least in reality. Maybe not in person here, but his soul probably devoured. I don't know. We'll have to see. All I know is he's not going to be living like that, and I'm not letting my quest falter to get back the Moonblade that belongs to our family. Our family is more important than just one person.
Look into the events that. Go ahead, Tolwyn.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna, just because like Tolwyn can't see or sense like what like this being like fading in and out or whatever. So he's just gonna walk around the table and reach out, and as long as Talon doesn't stop him, he's gonna cast Protection from Evil and Good on him against fiends.
It works for all of them.
Yeah.
But who are you casting it on?
On you.
Oh. I'm like, what are you doing?
Just to be safe.
Can you tell me what to...
Yeah. Just to be safe, I'll protect you from whatever vestiges of the presence may be around you for while it fades away.
Jack, I'm like, okay. Okay, I think that's a good idea.
Casting protection
in
from good
case.
and evil. Making sure, just in case. Pretty good, just in case, after what just happened. Possessing or giving possession of a greater strength into Talon, protecting them from fiends is generally a good thing. So with the magic cast, they are now better off than they were prior. But the events have still finished off. And Polymer Silver, based on the situation that have just transpired, does state, well, it's unfortunate that that had to happen, and based off the way you've been phrasing things, I take it that they're family. It is a shame that that has to come. But if you'd like, we can give them an honorable burial.
Yes, I need to have an honorable burial, and I need the ground consecrated as well, as I'm going to be coming back for his body
Of
for
course.
a proper burial at home. Although I don't know when I will be able to take him.
Delilah then states, you're more than welcome to return, so long as you can get back down here. That being said, though, based on what you've provided us this here today, it shouldn't be an extreme concern. But we will look into how things grow from here. But you're more than welcome back into my civilization. Civilization. I can say words.
I bow and say thank you very much. I appreciate this gesture, and will not be forgotten. My family has a long memory.
Well, we are long lived. Soon enough, unless you guys decide to do something, a consecration will be placed upon the area, like a little bit outside of her outside home, making sure it's clean and cleansed, and they will be buried. However, do you guys decide to do anything before that happens? You can if you want to, but it's entirely up to you.
All I would
Uh,
like to do is to have a few moments of a private conversation with Delilah for my character's own quest.
All right. Before the consecration of sand, stone, mud, and whatever lies around, Cerberus, you go and speak with Delilah. You were speaking with her beforehand, but things happen.
Tolwyn, did you also have something?
I just said I'd like to take a short rest at some point. But
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is a short rest.
Delilah, are we private at the moment?
As private as we can get.
I gesture to a chair for us both to sit.
I'm gonna say this is a chair.
That's fine. I was just setting the mood, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I want to first apologize. As I may have mentioned before, like yourself, I am also a being with some divine power as well. I was trying to see if I could figure out what the situation was wrong, which I used an ability I possessed to help me find, which turns out fiend possessions, and I wanted to make sure that you didn't feel bad or insulted that I had discovered a little bit about your secret that you didn't want anyone to find out. And I wanted to apologize for sticking my nose in accidentally.
It is quite all right. It's not something that it's not something I tell all, but it is something that is a part of me. As mentioned beforehand, we used to be controlled a long time ago by an entity of great evil, a spider being known as Lolth. She had great possession and control over the drow, whether they knew it or not. In my own lineage, her blood ran through. And when the severing ties of the gods cut from this world, I and my family became the ones in control of the web, or the. It's a poor way of phrasing it, as we do not have full control, but the ones able to tap into the remaining forces that she has left here. We are branded with marks to indicate who we are. Most of the time, we keep them hidden. Thinking back on this, I think it was Tolwyn or Talon, I forget who, but I think it was Talon, did see I mean, you're not part of this conversation, but you did see a spider mark on her somewhere that was accidentally revealed a while ago. But
I
I
thought I
digress.
saw when I was drunk.
Yeah, I think I rolled. I think he rolled a Constitution, but you were too heavily drunk to remember the next day. So I'm gonna say the memory kind of comes back hazily. If you want to ask her, if you want, like, make this awkward and tell her, "Hey, can I see the mark?" Like it's underneath the
Scar tissue.
not the scar tissue, like underneath her shoulder sleeve.
I
So
thought you said it was the back shoulder.
Oh yeah, that was it. Sorry, I forget where each one has the marks in different places, like a birthmark. I forget which one is which. Nonetheless, it'd just be weird to ask. But she does tell you the entire situation, so you vaguely remember that night. But she does state. But due to this factor, it's possible that some may believe that we are inherently evil, which is not the case. And so we always try to make sure that everyone is taken care of and tended to.
I understand your situation a whole lot more than you might fully know. I too come from a place as well that sometimes I find that talking about our issues kind of help us come to terms with it. And I thank you for speaking with me, with what you're willing to share. So I will in turn if you'd be willing to listen.
If you'd like.
I come from a distant place in a way, still connected to this world, broken as it is. It is only now that I've left it, only now that I've experienced what it's like to live outside of it, I came to understand how immoral, disgusting, evil it was. Yet, despite that, everyone there, their lives, their thoughts, they considered everything that they did to have been the normal. People tortured and turned into living furniture. People, still living people, turned to bricks. They were used to lay down the foundation for roads and using torture as pastime entertainment. If, well, they didn't call it torture, obviously. We out here would call it torture. But in there, it was just considered the norm. I always felt that there was something wrong, but I never understood what it was, what this feeling was, until we met 4 boys, if you want to call them that. It was then I understood what it meant to be a cancerous evil. And so I did what had to be done to make sure it wouldn't spread. And that's how I started my path on what I have earned, if you want to call it that. Though personally, I think, well, in some ways, did the world and everyone else a great favor, but some probably wouldn't see it like that.
She does nod in this, and she takes it a moment to sink it in, draw the thoughts within her before she actually does speak. But she does state, there are many paths that we must take. Some violent to make sure that the world is safe, some more passive to make sure that everything is preserved. I cannot say for one whether your path will lead to salvation or destruction, but I can tell you that it's one that has been thought out. If you ever feel like you all change that path, if you ever feel it will not work out, I suggest to not be afraid to change or alter the course. As in my own path, it has already been changed before me. And who knows what the future might hold for yours.
I take a deep breath, nod. Thank you, Delilah. I feel like a great weight has been lifted off my chest. I can breathe a little easier now.
Of course. And as I mentioned beforehand, your team is more than welcome to come down to the Underdark. I can't say for certain any other city, but you're more than welcome in mine.
I thank you greatly.
She bows.
I bow back and open the door for her.
Returning back to the team, I'm going to say Rivers, Palmer, and her son. Oh, I forgot his name was Hijar. All the while preparing the consecration of the grave. Everyone else was resting in service. This would be considered a short rest for you as well. That's better. But nevertheless, the team is able to take care of things without too much of an issue. And with the help of Hijack, the only cleric in the area, the way the body is preserved and tended to is taken care of and basically tended to by the only cleric in town, assisted by, I'm going to say that Towan helped out. It makes sense. Making sure the body is preserved and no wild animals are able to come towards it. Making sure that the area is consecrated and preserved. Hijack does preserve a strand of hair within a silvered metallic box and presents it to Talon. The inscription on top is Alanon's name itself. It's a basic memento mori of life and the finite example, even for elves and drow. And soon enough, the ceremony begins, and soon after, it ends. And I meant to put him in the GM layer, but accidentally moved him in the token layer. With all said and done, Delilah does look towards your team. So then, what do you all intend to go now? Or where, rather, should I state? You're more than welcome to stick around in my town for a bit, or help Silver cultivate the fruits of your bearing. The fruits of your work. Either.
There are several things, actually. One of the things we needed was information. Now, well, I'm not going to quite be able to get it now. Well, we do have a few things. We have some hints about what we can do with some of the storms, which was one of the reasons why we came down here. Apparently, frequencies would help us get through. I guess we're going to have to try to find some more experienced bards and maybe some more of those crystals from before. Maybe if we combine them, we might be able to pierce through these shells, or perhaps some other material or method. Then we have to figure out a means of quelling the storms temporarily so we can just get to the darn crystals to begin with. That's one of the reasons why we came down here. But, well, we got some of our answers, just not all of it. I wish I knew how he got through the storm.
Delilah does state, if you're looking for... looks towards her son, Hijack. Hijack, didn't you state some time ago that you were able to get to another colony not too far away? Hijack then states, yes. It'll take some time through a tunnel system, but you'll be going towards the north section, heading north. Afterwards, he does draw out a map. If you follow this path, it'll lead you outside of, well, the Underdark, but in a different direction. Most civilians wouldn't be able to get it out safely, but based on what you've all done, I don't fear any harm will come to you. So going out that way, heading towards that colony, there is a small little caravan there. But beforehand, there is a shrine of two weapons. The shrine itself is inscribed in language I do not understand, but it seems to have notes of music inscribed within the language itself. So you can check that out as well. But beyond that point, there is a village of entertainers. Perhaps they'll be able to assist you in frequency.
Guys, do you think it might be worthwhile to get some more of those crystals? Or do you think we should just go ahead and go to the place in the north?
It would be a long, dangerous journey to get up to where we found those crystals, and we don't know what to do with them, so I don't think it's worth our while at this time.
All right. I thought he asked because those crystals were related to frequencies, and they might be useful to help us get through the.
Like, they
They're-
themselves are, they may or may not be related to the sunstone or the crystallization of the core, but they do and are interesting. Like, you can get for more, but you don't really know if it's the same after the sunstone basically exploded inside the city and re-nourished the ground. Like, it's possible it got more dangerous, like, for a short term. It's also possible that the entire area was caved out due to the massive amount of energy that was inscribed to the ground again. You can check it out if you want, but it's entirely up to you. Yeah, but River does state this, just in case you guys forget, so it's not an outside of game thing.
Oh, thank you, River. I'm surprised I didn't think about that. I guess then my idea is no longer valid. Never mind. It looks like the north it is.
Well, who knows? The gods may send us back this way at some time, but for now, I think our path is clear. Northwards.
Right, it is quite cold up in the north, so I do suggest being prepared to face anything within the snow.
Snow underground?
No, you'll be going through the underground and then going up into the surface.
Ah, my apologies. I don't really have much warm weather gear. Do you know where we can get some?
Delilah does state, we do have a shop in town that might be able to help you out. While we ourselves don't cater to snow, oftentimes the cave systems can be hot and cold, so we do have a few sets of clothing that might be able to be provided.
We'll take a look then. Thank you.
Of
Sounds
course.
like a plan.
Before I forget, did we ever ask them if they know anything about what was this group that were messing with magic? Scarlet something?
The Children of Scarlet, which is something else. They're not messing with. Well, they kind of are, kind of aren't, but they're doing something.
Did we ever ask them anything about it?
I think you asked Silver, and he only knew what he knew.
Okay. Delina, I can't believe I forgot this. My apologies. Do you know anything about the Children of Scarlet?
From what I remember, the Children of Scarlet were born after the events of the. After the disconnection of the world from the gods. Oftentimes, they are bred and born out of sorcerers, those imbued by power given to them by their lineage. Some by gods, others by devils and demons, and even still some by dragons and genasi and the like. It's quite possible that they went mad after the disconnection, Some theorize that some other force took possession of them after the disconnection of the world, and others still believe that they simply went mad after the gods longer provided the world with new magic. This is only the story I know, since I have not encountered one myself. There are from time to time individual sorcerers born out of natural means within the colonies of my village, as well as silvers. In my village, however, they are not gotten rid of, but they are given two choices. One, to see how things play out, or two, given enough provisions and hijack gets them to the surface to do what they decide to do. Whether to live a life on the surface to the fullest or meet an end. And we provide the same service for silvers. I chew that up towards silver. The way the Romanovs stated are your throwaways, but I prefer not to use that word. Neither would I. But they are the ones that are in my town called the discarded. I don't like that word either. Again, not my choice either.
From what we've seen of this Scarlet energy, if it is indeed related to the Children of Scarlet, it seems to be some kind of corruption. We encountered an outlier of one of the storms, and unnatural creatures came from the storm, strange red lightning, and it seemed to have. We met one on the surface, and it seemed to me to be driving her mad.
She was able to fight it off just a tiny bit, and she did so in order to try to help
Yes,
push the
but
storm away. So it makes us think that the storm has some kind of connection to the Children of Scarlet, or the Children of Scarlet wish to use the storms.
Hijack in this then states, if that's true, then I would suggest looking for a higher level clergyman than I. Someone with the vast knowledge of demons and devils and the like. That, or look for a scientific expert to deal with magic and the destructive force that it can imply or implore on someone's body and physical, as well as a mental state.
It's so strange. I'm kind of surprised that either devils or fiends are even capable of even doing anything here.
It's possible it's something else, but that would potentially be the closest thing you can. I'm afraid I don't really know the Children of Scarlet myself, so that's probably the best through line I can think of. If they are being possessed or taken over or corrupted by something, devils and demons are usually the first thing you would think of.
even if it's not them causing it, they could be taking advantage of it.
It's quite true.
The aberrations we fought were very strange.
They were also necrotic in nature.
If nothing else, a cleric might be able to provide you with some sense of protection as well.
Do you know the state of the hells? As I understand it, they should no longer be able to get here.
From what I understand, there's really no way of going into the hells or the heavens themselves anymore. Upon death, that is a different story. But there's potentially no way of getting back after death as well. Not entirely sure, as my studying only goes so far. That being said, though, if no more are able to be drawn in, then we're likely potentially dealing with what has remained here.
Well, DM, correct me if I'm wrong, but in D&D, aren't demons and devils like permatied to the hells? They have a permanent connection to that realm. If they die here, then they automatically go back.
Yeah, demons and devils, like creatures possessed, like the Rakshasa and stuff like that, once they die onto this mortal coil, they go back to their plane to rejuvenate, reconstruct, rebuild, regrow. Often than not, seeking vengeance are those that took them down. But if they can't get back, or potentially it might be possible that they can't get back, you're not entirely sure what will happen there. Due to the
So,
fact that these four don't have that information because sorcerers are given that type of choice, you don't really know.
so there is so the bridge that used to connect us to allow the demons to be here is no longer there. There's absolutely no connection.
I'm not saying there's no connection. I'm saying that it is weaker than it ever has been. There's
So,
not no established gate anymore. There might be pockets that open up from time to time, but those are sporadic.
all right, I don't mean to question this so much. It was because it's just that my character is wondering, since for a demon or devil to even be here, there always has to be a connection to the hells.
Yeah,
If it's gone, the connection is gone, the demon or devil automatically vanishes. At
yeah.
least as I recall.
Uh,
So that's why
uh,
I'm
Again, going
asking.
to the mechanics of D&D. Yeah, that's entirely possible, but that also implies that they might have a connection here by some means or another. It also could mean that they don't, and you just don't know if they die, they just die. You
All
don't
right,
have that information, I'm afraid.
just
It's
wanted to make
it's a
sure my character.
it's a good line
Yep.
of thought, but they and you don't honestly have that information.
Well, I'll tell the group my somewhat random train of thought and why I'm concerned about it.
All right. Uh, While on the way into town, you do find the shop without too much of an issue. Servers explains the situation. You are able to get fine enough winter wear for a silver. So it's not that expensive because again, they don't cater to it, but it is there if you need it. So each of you are able to be easily equipped without too much of a worry. The other things that they have in this shop are your standard array of equipment here and there. Some health potions, they have a total of 5 because they don't generally need it, but they also can't mass produce these. So they have 5 in stock and will take some time to make more, but it's still possible. It's not impossible. It's basically medicine in a jar. In this
I only
case,
have I only have 26 gold left.
yeah.
How much? I believe it's 50 gold for
Its
one.
standard is 50, but I'm gonna say because you guys basically helped at the town, they'll sell it to you for dirt cheap, 25 gold piece.
How much does everyone else have?
Only 24, but I'm not as much interested in healing potions myself as the cold weather gear.
The cold weather
Talon?
gear you can easily get. Taylor?
I'm good. I don't want potions. You go ahead and get yourself one.
Yeah.
I'll give
I'll be
25,
alright.
I'll give 25 gold to buy one.
Okay. You do so and then hand it to you. It's a standard health potion, so you get the dice to roll is 2d4 plus 2. Nevertheless, though, they do also have other weapons you can trade or exchange for. Like the weapons you have, you can exchange and get other ones or different ones or new ones. If you have the money, you can also get +1 weapons. They have an array of them. They're not magical, they're just very finely crafted.
Masterwork.
Masterwork, basically, yeah. They do give an additional
Blade.
+1 to attack and damage, but you would have to pay for those, and those are the standard price plus. They'll give you a discount because, again, you saved the town. I mean, they don't have a source of light anymore, but they'll make do with moss because Delilah will tell them and teach them because that's what they've been doing. Anyways, you'll get a discount, so standard price of the weapon plus 50 gold, but that in itself is expensive because you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah, I couldn't have gotten it even before the potion anyways.
Unfortunately, Silver's current circumstance, he's not able to provide you with actual money, because they had no use for until currently right now. So they need to build up that market share. That being
Actually,
said,
I think we get some food to take with us for rations, if that's all right.
yeah, you'll easily get 10 rations for 1 silver. But since you did save the town, Delilah will give each of you 50 gold. It honestly should be more, but I can't really think of a good price. I'm gonna say 100 gold for each of you.
Very generous. Thank you.
Thank you, Delilah. Well, tell your daughter that we said hi, and I hope she enjoys her new free life. Hi,
Of course.
Jack. Enjoy yourself. Silver and River, have fun.
They do nod, and Delilah does state, well, freedom for the next 50 years, but with the current circumstances, we'll likely make sure she enjoys a complete freedom, since the Romanovs no longer have as much power as they used to.
Glad to see that we managed to help.
As am I. With the team now stocked with winter wear, again, you can get the +1 weapons by either trading your weapon and then spending 50 gold, and you'll get the +1. Easy enough
Uh,
done. If you don't want to do
Big
that but get
50
another
gold?
weapon, it's the standard price plus 50 gold to get a +1.
I was still hoping to get a +1. What is the standard price of a longsword?
That is a good question, and I hoped you guys knew it because I am never good with the market prices, which is why I always give you a steal. What kind of sword?
A longsword.
Longsword 5e. Okay, it did not tell me.
I trade mine in. I just don't.
15 gold. 15 gold. Yeah.
So, +1 longsword for my old one and a 15 gold.
No, your old longsword plus 50 gold.
All right, I'll trade that in.
Okay.
I talked to the businessman or one.
Yeah.
And I hand it over.
Easy enough
Thank you
trade.
very much.
He nods in agreement. But anyone else can easily trade.
I do the same thing too. I give him my other scimitar. It's a magical. I just have. I had a regular scimitar. Just hand him that one. Give him 50 gold. So now I have my scimitar from my father and a +1. So I have 2 magical swords now.
Again, they're masterwork. They're not magical.
Oh, well, there's still 2. Well, actually, I don't even know what my sword does.
I mean, they're better.
Yeah, I'm still getting it. I'm still getting it. I'm getting
Yeah,
it. I'm getting it. I'm just saying, I don't know what my sword does. But anyway,
yeah.
it will illuminate itself to me.
But soon enough, you are able to get into the cave system without too much of an issue. Getting to the wet work system, you are able to. It does take time. It does take 3 days to get through the work, but Hijack obviously gives you the map he gave you prior. I'm gonna say Tolwyn helps you get out. I'm not gonna make you roll because the last time he made you roll, you got like 23, 18, and a natural 20. So I'm gonna say at this point you know how to get around. Until I feel like I need you to roll.
Works.
Over time, Talon is able to assist you, not getting hunted down by creatures. And when you guys do face some creatures, Cerberus and Kythal are able to fell them without too much of an issue. Overall, your team is able to get out of the cave systems and back onto the normal plane of existence. Well, by normal plane of existence, I just mean you get out of the caves and back on top to the surface. You do realize that it was a long trek, and the civilians in the forest elves civilization probably wouldn't have survived that. It's not as if it wasn't dangerous, but less dangerous than the route you took getting down there, but still pretty dangerous for a malnourished elf with not any martial training.
Well,
So,
that was a picture. We
yeah.
should probably keep this map.
quite honestly, if it wasn't for you guys, they would only have 10 years until their civilization was no longer sustainable.
Now they have a thriving ecosystem.
Very true.
Hopefully.
But getting out of the woodwork, you go. I'm gonna go
I
with
wonder what
this.
we can use the strawberries and the water for. What do you guys think we can use it?
I'm not sure, but it may become apparent in the future.
As you wind up crossing roads and going with the system itself, getting around the first buildings here and there, you get to a good source of water, so you're able to fill your rations of water that you have left remaining. So that's not too much of an issue. But while you're there, you do also see a giant. It's not a sunstone, but it's definitely a giant mass of rock with spikes jettisoning out of it, representing either a star or a sun.
You know, that thing kind of reminds me of an old compass back at my old home used to have in some of the museums. So that reminds me of. I don't know if that's what it is.
Well, why don't we inspect it? I don't mind spending a few minutes here enjoying just having the sky overhead again.
It does feel a bit less claustrophobic, I have to admit.
With an actual sky, it definitely
I'm gonna be
does.
hearing nonsense. I don't like it. It smells awful. It's fit for drow, I suppose, but not for elves like me. What was I gonna say? I go off alone to meditate on my sword. Like not off, but like sit off to the side. Like
Dave,
Yeah.
I know. I'm still I don't know, I'm still talking to it.
Yeah.
My sword is sentient. I don't know if it's talked to me yet, but I'm trying to talk to it.
At this point in time, after the 3-day trek, regrowing, rehealing, rejuvenating, Talon, you are able to eventually sync up with the blade, attuning to the blade itself. Currently, we'll work out the details later. You know what it can steadily do. Basically, its base stats.
It's wielding it like it like lit up like with like a blue like flame or whatever. Like, but when I'm wielding it, it's not.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like, come on.
You
This is not
attune
here.
and connect. The blade, the flame of blue syncs up and then dissipates quickly. You can tell that something's off about the blade itself. Again, it looks thinner than it should be. The hilt, the handle, and the blade itself. That being said, though, it still functions quite well. However, you can currently feel like something's missing about this blade, but not quite fully able to realize it. When a few days pass and not able to communicate with this,
Figure it out.
you go collect some water, come back halfway through, and meditate while the rest of the group is looking at what Cerberus believes is a giant compass. Whether it's not, it's entirely up to you. Hijack did mention that there are some maybe archaeological sites or some strange symbology that you'll meet along the way, so this is likely one of them. Tolwood and Cerberus observe it while Talon communes with the blade. Tolwood and Cerberus, I want you both to go ahead and roll insight. Investigation, sorry.
should I ever try to get in contact with the weird scientist dude at that telescope place?
You are technically heading back in that direction. Like, looking at the maps you guys have, because I think Kaithal got a general geographical map of the area, and looking at the map that I'm going to say the other guy gave Tolwyn, Hijack gave Tolwyn, looking at those two and pairing them together, like, it's 3 days to the left of where you're going, but you can visit there before going to your current destination, which is 5 days out.
Just a thought.
I mean, you won't lose time, but you'll go around a good amount of stuff.
I mean, our goal is to catch these storms and warn people about them, but who knows? It may be worth our while.
While,
What do we think of this thing?
while investigating the site and speaking about things that are to come, Toward and Service, you can tell that this structured form does seem to represent the cardinal directions of north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, etc., etc. So it is a giant compass structure. So you do realize that you're going in the right direction, even if you didn't have the map. So thankfully enough, the way you're going is the way you need to go, or at least the way you have decided to go to get more information or a little bit help with uh, sound frequency, which honestly could help in the long run. That being the case, though, you can also tell that Cerberus, not Tolwyn generally got the. Tolwyn, you got the number, but Cerberus got it a little bit better. Investigating it, you can tell that the structured form was not carved or placed here. It was grown out of the earth itself, as if it was molded from it. So you can tell that this was magically placed. The amount of force and structure this has, it would have had to have been over time and over a good amount of time. So it wasn't just overnight. It had to be shaped, reshaped, grown, regrown. Then the structures themselves had to be pointed. So someone took their time and effort to do this. But that being the case, though, Service, you can tell a little bit more. That there is inscribed symbolism within the scrapes and bruises and cracks of the stone that was formed here. For a quick second, it just simply looks like weathering, simple erosion until you look a little bit deeper. And you can tell that this is symbology. Do you have either the symbol, not the symbol, the language of Earth or Primordial?
No,
Poland does.
I'll point it out to Tolan.
All right. Towin, after giving you the information at hand, you can tell that, yeah, this looks familiar. While you yourself have Primordial, it's an offshoot, well, technically it's the origin point of the other languages, so you're able to inscribe it or look at it well enough. Getting the information at hand, you can tell that there is a story inscribed upon here about two warriors of light and shadow, of those coming forth during the convergence, of life and death coming as one, and both falling down to the setting sun. When life and death meet as one, both harmonize into one. When the sun rises, the moon sets, and when the moon rises, the sun sets. A cycle of life and death as two warriors fight for unity. It's a strange story, not a poem, at times poetic, but it is something that was meant to be carved and left here. So there are two potential thoughts that come to mind. One is obviously Hijack did tell you about two weapons basically placed as a shrine or memorial. At least that's what they anticipated it to be, or expected it to be. But based off of this story, it could be related. The other thing it did inscribe on the story itself involved life and death. Maybe the two warriors symbolize life and death, or maybe the battle itself symbolized life and death and trying to come out victor, and the other one simply losing their life. You're not entirely sure, or at least at the very least, it's not completely clear. It's possible you might be able to understand it better if you see the two weapons. Or maybe converse, I can speak English, with the rest of the group and see what you all might understand of it.
Yeah, I think like Tolan probably just like read it out loud so you can hear the story.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what to make of this.
All right. Talon's not that far off, so they could hear the story as well. They're just meditating in an offshoot area. Everyone can go ahead and roll insight. Kaithal would be the only one with advantage. Ironically enough, they couldn't make it. So I will be rolling for them.
Wonder something there. You said something about them falling where the sun sets, being to the west. We could go west, see if there's something there.
Weren't we already going west?
Well, you're going northwest.
Are you rolling, Severus?
I already rolled. I got a 6.
I
didn't
think you're waiting on me, but Kaithal's character sheet won't pop up, so I am just going to give him, I don't know, +3. +3 sounds smart. But... Okay, thankfully enough, Tolwyn also rolled an 18. Based off of the information at hand, two things do track and follow. And I'm going to say Kaithal gives you their information so it's clearer. Looking at the destination at hand, people often are not in his own world, are attributed to seasons, are attributed to snow, suns, warmth, the very seasonal times within the earth or the realm itself, because he technically lived in the domain of the Sylvan folk. The Feywild, if you will. So that tracks. So these two people might actually quite literally symbolize life and death, or at the very least, avatars of life and death. Based on the information at hand, the setting sun falling, them falling to the west, it is potentially not a, word for word, hey, head to the west. It's more symbology than anything else. Life and death represented by these two warring fighters for some unknown means, but if both, based off of the story, fell during the fight, then something has happened during that meantime. Maybe two other avatars have taken their place, or something else has transpired. Another way of interpreting it as well, based off of Tolwyn's own information, is that there might be a way of connecting to these 2 points. Even if the avatars do die based off of life and death itself, that doesn't mean the entity itself dies, which means that this might be a way of connecting or converging into the world, life and death's own words towards you, which might give you a clue or a hint onto potentially what is going on in this world. If both life and death you can connect with, there's a possibility you might understand the world a little bit more. And due to your guys' own circumstances, that might be helpful in this current predicament. That being said, though, the weapons themselves might prove useful if you're able to do things correctly. Based on Tolwyn's and Kaithal's own understanding, there might be a ritual to awaken these things. But unfortunately, no one rolled above a 20 or a 20. Not natural, but you needed at least a 20 to get the rest of the insight.
Question, wouldn't the weapons already be found?
Yes, Hijack did tell you about them.
They're in the shrine.
Yes.
So why is no one using them?
Good question.
If they're part of a shrine, maybe nobody's allowed to touch them.
Kaithal does state it's also possible they can't touch them or can't draw them out.
Quite true. Well, and was this shrine in the direction that we're heading?
Yes. In fact, if Hijack wrote a little note, here are some things you might want to look at or watch out for. He mentions like owlbears to the left, Duragar to the right, inside some cave systems. This weird shrine, which is basically the shrine you now know of, and it's clear what shrine it is. Here, so you can go there without too much of an issue. That's not really the problem. So it is on your way. Like it won't immediately get you out of the current direction you're going to. It's just a destination you can go to.
Should I go in there?
Well, if it's on our way anyways, it's definitely going to be worth looking at, I think.
Based on the map, it's still 2 days away.
Yeah. In the
But
meantime, I think we should continue on with our mission.
Sounds like a
while this is going on, Talon, what are you doing to converse with your blade?
I just like remembering the like lessons of like focus that my father like taught me. And that the blade, would sometimes be, dormant for centuries at a time or decades at a time, not talking to anybody, or sometimes they talk a lot. However, whenever like a new wielder like always wielded it, it would always like speak with them for a little bit, like or get to know them or whatever. Especially if the wielder killed the previous owner. Yeah, but they're just silence now. I'm just like, kind of trying to like clear my mind to see if I can hear anything it's trying to say, and also like trying to probe out like using its name like every now and then, like my mind like Rarakan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you there?
Go ahead and roll a perception check.
Answer me, goddammit. No. The name of the blade. All right, perception.
Yes.
So I have to like stand outside the house to talk. Otherwise, I have to like, hi everybody.
All right.
So, general, sweet. Oh, good.
Based on the words you give to the blade, based on trying to understand or trying to hear the blade as it's not speaking, you do get some connection, some understanding, but it's not fully realized, not fully there, which does mean that it is there, it is present. Maybe it's just ignoring you, or maybe you just can't fully synchronize with it. But you do get a few words here and there. They're echoed within your mind, not fully realized of words, but maybe an echo of words. You do hear sometimes some converging words, such as lost, found, other, blade. You're not exactly sure if that's an entire sentence or just simply the words you can understand and hear, or at the very least interpret. Whatever that means, you're not entirely too sure, but those are the words you were able to figure out. So it is there, it is present, it might be trying to communicate, but it can't, or at least the very least, you can't fully understand it just yet.
I'm meditating a lot, trying to hear if anything's happening. Also, like starting to get a little concerned, but I don't say anything to anybody because I don't know what the hell's going on, and I don't want to worry everybody. Like, but yeah, I'm getting frustrated at this darn thing. I've been looking at it for 50, 60 years, and I finally found it. And now it won't even talk to me. Like, I mean, I wasn't thinking like it would like want to talk to me forever, but I thought it'd like, be like, hey, take me back to the family. Fuck you or something. Peace. I don't know.
Makes enough sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Something.
But after Cerberus and Tolwyn, Kythal, and Hound and Owl are I think you wanted a Hawk Talon, but for some reason I gave you an Owl. Nonetheless, after getting the information at hand and then explaining it to you, Talon, they are able to retrieve you as you scurry along soon after. It does take 2 other days until arriving to the point in question, and you did state you were going there, so Oh wait, oops, wrong map. It's fine. It's not like it has anything in the token layer right now. But you do, at points in time, are able to long rest. So any spells you might have lost during the fight, anything else such as health you would have lost, you are able to regain back. Thankfully, it has been uneventful because right now most animals are hibernating. And due to the fact that it is ice and snow, most travelers don't really travel during this time except those that need to. Ironically enough, your team needs to. But that also means two other things. One, if you're going to a town of performers, well, they're not currently going anywhere, so that at least proves viable for your current circumstances. And two, well, nothing is going anywhere. So, at the very least, you'll feel safe. It really depends on how you deal with snow. But in the horizon, you do see two weapons very far away, but close enough that you can see them. A giant, I'm going to have to look at the map. A giant spear-like weapon adjacent to a giant cleave-like weapon. Both of the weapons do stand within the snow, not faltered or felt by anything. The weapons themselves aren't dug into the ground, but simply standing above the ground, or placed upon it without bending or being caved into the ground itself. Do you guys do anything before arriving there, or do you head forth and see what is to come?
I'd like to do Divine Sense first.
What's the range?
60 feet.
They are beyond 60 feet. This is within the horizon line, so I'm going to say
And-
they're like 500 feet away.
I need anything around me because we're going to go near something that's like potentially very important. So there may be something around.
Yeah.
Need 60 feet.
Getting to the point of your current circumstances, you can tell that after the bridge, the area is celestial, but that doesn't mean that the ground itself is some type of celestial elemental. More that it has been consecrated.
I stopped the group before we crossed the bridge. Just so you know, the ground is consecrated after the bridge.
Okay. Well, isn't that a good thing?
Just mentioning it.
Kaithal does joke around, simply states, well, it's a good thing none of us are vampires.
Funny. Let's continue onward.
Alright. I
You know,
also...
this-
What was that?
Be
I was-
respectful.
He said beer festival.
Ah.
I was going to make a joke about blood and vampires and how my character is a paladin of blood evolved, so but never.
Arriving to the area without too much of an issue, you do see the blades now within range. Maybe not grabbing range, but definitely range itself. Looking at them, you can tell that the area around is not altered in any way. There are birds here and there. None of the wildlife that you are used to without snow is present, but the trees themselves are not flourishing with life. They're not filled with fruit during the winter. It seems that these two weapons themselves are not causing the earth around them to be altered in any way. But based off the information that you have, well, that does not mean that they are not useful or important. It's a better way of phrasing it. You can tell that the two blades are not sunk into the ground, so they should not be able to stand this way. The weight alone, or at least the heft alone, of the blades and the way they're built would cause them to turn one way or the other and fall in that direction. They would not be able to stand, well, for who knows how long. You can definitely tell that Hijack did tell you about the blades, or at least this shrine, roughly at this point 5 days ago. And these two giant weapons, well, they would not have lasted. Like, say for example, if you're very good at balancing things, 5 days during the winter, during the wind, it would not have lasted this long. Even the snow around the weapons don't seem to be jutted around as if to give some type of cushion. Rather, it's flat as the rest of the ground is flat.
I like to do divine sense once more.
All right. The area around you, you can tell that the entire area is consecrated. Like,
Super.
yeah, the entire area is consecrated. Not super consecrated, but you can tell that if you kill something here, if you die here, if you are disrespectful to the earth or potentially something else, that's basically disconsecrating the area. So something might happen there. You're not entirely sure. You can test it out if you want, but you can tell that celestial energy is radiating on the ground. Not to again, it's not like some giant celestial elemental. It's just consecrated. But you can tell that in between it is also a during the epicenter, which you can tell now it's the two weapons. There is also an underlying mixture of undead energy. Not as if it's unconsecrated within that area, but it is melded within 10 feet of both weapons. I'll just make a square, it's easier that way.
Alright, guys, well, there's a lot of celestial power here consecrating the land. There's also natural undead energy as well here, within 10 feet of the weapons. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, per se, but heads up. It's ironic since my character will eventually get resistance to both celestial and necrotic. There's really
Well-
many levels of ironic being here.
It seems convenient that we've been drawn here. Perhaps the gods mean for us to learn something here, or perhaps even use these weapons. Although I am unsure, as no one has taken them before, and perhaps there's a reason for that.
Indeed, I was thinking along the same lines. Is the sunlight following naturally the shadow of these weapons?
Looking at the shadows, looking around at the trees, looking at the animals that are flying above you, you can tell that they are following within the scope of shadow and light. So that itself hasn't altered in any way. But while you take your time to slowly observe the area, making sure that you don't do anything too hastily, you can tell when the shadows do move, they move not out of sequence, but it's as if there is a fluctuation when they move. It's sometimes hard to tell, but you can tell that the shadows do move in the exact same speed as everything else moves, like the other shadows. But for a quick second, you do feel as if there is a double shadow making it a little darker, or a thinner shadow making it a little lighter. If you weren't observing these things carefully, you would not have noticed that. And I'm just going to give you that one for free because, Cerberus, you basically called it out.
Thank you. Where's the people? We didn't come across anyone.
You have to see a single person.
Since arriving here, you haven't seen a single person, yes.
It's kind of in
Oh,
the middle of nowhere.
Going. What is nature telling you right now? Do you feel anything off in the world around us at the moment?
When you can roll nature to figure that one out. I will tell you that this current monument is 2 days out from the town you're heading towards. So it's not so far away people wouldn't be here, but it's far enough away that you would have to travel here to get here.
It's also the dead of winter, right? So
Yes, that's true. Based on the information you have, looking at the ground, looking at your horizon point, looking at what Cerberus has given you based off of their own divine sense, if there is a 10-foot radius of undead energy and celestial energy, it's possible that those two types of melding would cause a adverse reaction to the people around. Maybe not the animals or the trees, or basically nature, as they themselves are a part of the world, but the humanoids within the world cause a change within the world, and in turn, life and death might cause a alteration within a humanoid's own being. It's quite possible that naturally people just avoid this place and never find it. Based on the sensation in the world, until when pressing your palm on the earth and trying to read this out, you can tell that this is a common occurrence. People just wandering around but not going towards its direction. But some people are able to pass through it due to their own connections with the world, or perhaps through knowledge and lore and just being generally lucky. However, you can tell that that amount of spacing, looking at the ground itself, looking very, very few footprints, that doesn't happen that often. And at the current circumstances that you find yourself, it's possible that just dead of winter, no one comes here, or at least not that often. That being the case, though, if this is here, this isn't hidden. People naturally avoid them, but that doesn't mean people don't find them. And again, they're not carved into the earth. They're just simply on the earth. That it's hard to describe it, but that itself feels off. If people do come here, do find them, well, these two weapons are quite good, finely crafted, finely made, and they would sell well. If a merchant, some bandit, some random civilian was able to find these things and has enough strength to carry it, be it one person or two, they would probably do it, since it would be an expense, and they are 2 days away from town, so why not? But no one has.
Yes, I'm not sure why, but there must be something that stops people from taking them.
I thought.
And I don't think that we can rely on goodwill for that. It is possible that they simply will not move if you try to move them. They don't seem to be really a part of what's going on here in the world.
But it used the primal language of Earth, right? To tell the story of possibly these things.
It's also just a very old language.
Well, it's primal language, yes, obviously. So my thought would be, I guess one thing would be is, it seems a little out of place. These things, how should I say this in a way that makes sense? Can you summarize the story again?
The basic story is two entities of both, not of both, of life and death fought within this area. Due to a factor of something that is out of their control, but they had to fight. They fought here, and when the sun set, they died here, leaving the two blades in turn, as basically in the west, which is where the sun sets. But the blades themselves have been here since that dawning and that death and rebirth. As in the story it does state, when the sun rises, the moon sets, and when the moon sets, the sun rises. Basically a cyclical motion or understanding of the world.
How would anyone be able to make the story if they weren't there to witness it?
It could be a legend.
Legends always have a seed of truth. And yet, I don't know of anything about this legend or about these things. Nor do they of us.
If this place naturally makes most people avoid it, it seems off, you know, and it's possible that people also choose to simply not remember it or don't. Sort of like it alters the perception.
It just seems
enough
really
to make
odd.
it unknown for the most part.
It seems really
Wait a
odd.
minute. Wait a minute. Can I roll, or can I ask, I would probably have a lot of conversations with Kaithal over these few days and weeks we've been together. And I'm like, Kaithal, this kind of reminds me of what you were telling me about, like the Feywild. And also, I think I would know something about it since I'm a high elf, I guess. But like, I don't know, maybe not. But at least Kaithal probably told me about it since
You would know some
I
stories
don't know.
of like your heritage, how the elves came here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what Kaithal would say or what he would know, but or maybe I'm way off base here. But it sounds like the Feywild. But I don't know.
That looking towards you, Kaithal does say, that is interesting. And I'm gonna have generally Kaithal and Talon would be only ones able to understand this. Cerberus and Tolwyn would have an understanding of the Feywild. Yeah, forget it. Everyone can go ahead and roll insight. Talon with a +2, Kaithal at advantage because he comes from the Feywild.
Insight's my best roll. A 1.
And again, his character sheet doesn't want to show up, so I'm gonna give him a +3.
Oh no. Roll the 1.
I mean a 1 + 2, so 4.
I know a lot. I'm so smart.
Okay. No one really gets this except for Tolwyn. And a little bit Kaithal, which is ironic. Maybe Kaithal just forgot and had a forgetful spell here. But based on the information you have, looking at the information that you have currently present, have gotten so far throughout the entire circumstance, Tolwyn, looking at the information that Kaithal just randomly said one day, looking at the current circumstances, these two weapons are likely magical, likely keeping people away through magical means. It's not as if they themselves are forcing people away, it's just people's minds are able to register them properly. Which means, similarly enough to the Feywild, if someone goes in and then hops out, their minds basically forget or try to forget due to the amount of magic imbued within that. And trying to understand life and death is hard to figure out and hard to discover for any humanoid, whether it be an elf or a drow or a human, dwarf, anyone. So the very perceptions of trying to understand life and death, that in itself is a concept that keeps people away, trying to not understand that, so people simply avoid it. When people do try to understand that or contemplate those meanings, similar to the Feywild, it's possible that that type of circumstance takes over, and simple enough, if you do not or cannot comprehend those things, it completely takes over a body, a mind, and discards it or throws it away or makes it become something else, similar to the Feywild. And when you go into certain zones and you either age, become younger, become something else, or become something more, the blades themselves, if you're not fully embracing or understanding them, might just turn you into something else that may understand it a little bit better or just able to avoid the circumstance of what currently happens. Due to the fact that there are trees, animals still in this area, it's possible that people, or at the very least, things that try to understand and comprehend these two weapons, turn into something that might comprehend them. Animals themselves comprehend life and death because they hunt to survive, to live, and they are hunted for something else to survive and live. And that's a simple enough understanding of both life and death. Trees themselves survive with light and water. Excuse me for a second. Okay, I'm back. With photosynthesis in the making of that, natural life is able to understand life and death. They live in order to die and die in order to make more life and preserve themselves and other things. So that concept of life and death is able to be understood. Looking at the amount of trees, looking at the animals around here, it's quite possible that these things, if you're not able to fully grasp the thought, the understanding of them, simply make you understand them. If you're not able to understand, well, you can't exactly pick up the blade that is that thing now, can you?
So this is going to be a test of mental, spiritual fortitude.
Possibly. It is also possible that only a certain person attuned to the primal concepts that govern the universe and the natural world could even think to approach these things.
I will
As a
try to
druid,
approach.
I do understand these things quite well, but even I am not sure if I would understand them the way that nature itself does.
Looking
I
at
will try to approach.
all right, Tobin, you got a 25, so I'll give you a little bit more. Out of game, it's possible that the ones most connected to the world and life and death of life would be not dwarves, sorry, uh, druids, clerics, paladins, something of that nature. Obviously, they have like life domains and the like.
Mhm.
Those of death would, ironically enough, also be paladins, obviously vengeance and stuff like that. Ironically enough, again, druids,
Mhm.
death circle, uh, and there is another one.
I
What did I
believe
have?
there's a sorcerer that does death.
Sorcerer. Thank you. So those are some good choices, or at least very good odds.
Mhm. It's possible, Severus, but just be warned that these weapons may not be
What we
weapons,
see.
but physical manifestations of primal forces in the universe.
So they may not be what we see, but something else entirely.
Yes and no.
It could
Let's
also be
just say I
both.
don't imagine that their form is as concrete as it may appear, and that our image of them as we see them before us is probably quite limited.
I agree. Considering what happened with those shadows, it seems to be that there's a lot more going on.
Towin, again, you rolled really well, which I'm surprised. I mean, your modifier is pretty big, but 25 is still pretty good. You can tell that the one to the right is death, and the one to the left is life.
Right. So I'll make sure to point that out in case anybody was unsure whether or not the silver one was life and the black one was death.
I was going to try to approach the life one because Blooded Vole is more tuned to life, I think.
My friend, if you want to try, we have made our way here, and I would say not by any chance. The gods direct us. Who
Would
knows?
say too that by the way that wizards are way better healers eventually than clerics are, and actually probably better than druids too. I don't know if druids have access to polymorph though.
You have to build them certain ways, though. So
Two rats.
there's that.
I will try approaching.
All right. As you approach the area around the life domain, I'm just gonna call it a life domain because it sounds cool. The life domain blade. You take a step and step until you are quite literally at the doorstep of the blade itself. Based off of the information that you have that Tolwyn gave you, and Kaithal should have remembered, but I guess forgot because I rolled terribly. So Tolwyn has it. You can tell that this blade symbolizes life. In order to grasp it or understand it, what do you do? Do you simply grab on?
I grasp my symbol with one hand, and I repeat the oath I swore. The oath, Paladin, all or the blood of all. I repeat it. Then I reach out. I repeat it out loud, full of conviction. And I reach out. And before I grasp it, I also turn towards the other weapon. And I'll say the same thing towards it, since as a paladin of the blood of Vol, We do practice both concepts as we know it. And I'll tell it, for this moment, I will choose the path of life first and see where it takes me. And I reach out, try to take the blade of life.
All right. Service, as you go and grasp, after the connection you make with Vol, after the words you give the blade of death, deciding to go with the blade of life for now, you reach out to the blade itself. And we will figure out what happens next time as we end the session.